wanted to give a shout out to you guys, just let you know that I've had kind of a breakthrough today. And I don't know if you've ever had those days where you're just having a breakthrough, like you've been studying, that's what I've been doing. I've been studying, I've been thinking about events from the past. Something happened last night and I saw an old friend, and that triggered something too. This friend was never a narcissist per se, but it made me think about a lot of other things. And I want to tell you what I did. And this was something, I kind of knew this was something I had to do, but I didn't know when it was going to happen. So what happened was, how do I best describe this? So I had this thought. There was something that was recurring for me over and over again, something from my past where I felt inferior. I felt like not included in a group. And this was way back in 8th grade. And because of this, I had developed some shame. Well, it had always been kind of lingering around there, but I never knew how to really address it. So what I did was, there was a couple periods before and after that event back in the 8th grade happened. And those were good events. And so what I was able to do was to go back and rewrite history in that 8th grade event. So instead of me being unpopular on the school bus and feeling like a big loser because this girl had pretty much, there was a girl that had a crush on me all of a sudden. We became like a couple. She was really a hot girl. This is 8th grade, so I've got some liberties here. I mean, it wasn't the relationship of the century or anything, but it was my first real relationship with somebody, and there was somebody who really liked me and stuff. So 2 weeks later, though, I got on the bus and she didn't even want to sit next to me. She said, go sit over there. I've changed my phone number. Anyways, it was very traumatic for me, and it brought back a lot of old feelings that I had prior to that, and I felt like I wasn't included. I wasn't part of the cool crowd. So what I was able to do was take a couple of events in the past and before, in the past prior to that event and after that event, and I was able to rewrite history in my head. And so what I did for I'd say about 20 minutes today is I used my imagination and I rewrote those events. I was like the popular kid. I was getting on the bus. Everybody liked me. And it was almost to the sense where it was almost as real as the real event that happened. Because what I'm doing is I'm studying some things that talk about using the imagination, PsychoCybernetics. There's a couple of really good videos on it on YouTube. But it's a book that talks about how, which a lot of other things talk about, is how we can use our mind to focus on something, and whatever we focus on, we get. And it's kind of like the law of attraction. The law of attraction kind of came out of that type of thinking. That book kind of, PsychoCybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, kind of set the whole, it was kind of like the genesis of all those types of books about the self-image. One of the most famous things from that book was a girl who had rhinoplasty. The man who wrote the book, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, was a plastic surgeon, and he apparently, this is the story from the book, there was a girl who had a scar on her nose, and she felt unattractive from it. It made her a little bit less attractive because of the scar. And the doctor performed the surgery, made her nose, better than what it even was prior, apparently. It was really, really good. It made her appearance, it really increased her appearance. And she still felt ugly even after the bandages came off and she saw herself. She could still see the scar. She still felt ugly. The scar was gone, but in her mind, she still felt the same. So even though the physical things around us can change, we can change that, get that scar away, it's how we feel. It's how we have the things inside of us. And so what I had what I've been doing is I've been kind of playing around with that, because whatever happens to us, it's not the reality, but it's the meaning that we assign to it. It's the well, this happened because of this. And I thought about more things. I thought about there was a guy back in the 8th grade who I felt like I was being excluded. He used to be my best friend, and then he went to a different school, and I took it personally. I didn't realize it until 10, 20 years later, that I was taking it personally. What happened back then, I was still feeling the effects of that. So what I'm doing now, though, is I'm going back in my head and I'm rewriting that. So when he would reject me, or he wouldn't call me back, or he wouldn't come over to play, I was rejected. I mean, I was literally rejected, but in my mind back then, I was rejected because I was just a bad person. I wasn't a good friend. I had a stuttering problem. I was weird. All those kind of things happened back then. But the older I get, the more I realize that there was other things going on in his head. I mean, he was a C/D student and I was an A student, so maybe there was some things he felt about me that he didn't want to hang out with me because maybe he felt stupid around me. I mean, that's the thing is that we never know, but I was still carrying around those same type of feelings, even though I don't know really what happened. All I know is that when he went to a different school, kind of my friends in my neighborhood, he kind of took those friends too, and I kind of was excluded from all that. So there you go. And the other friends weren't A students either. They were kind of CDs. They get in a little bit more trouble than I did. I was always a really good kid, but my point is that I didn't realize this, and I hope this helps you out, is that a lot of those things that we're carrying from the past, those mental meanings to things, those like if there's an event that happened back in junior high for you, or maybe when you were 5 or 6, we're still carrying that like we know what happened, like it was us, like we were the failure, we were the reason that this whole thing was bad, or there's something wrong with us. And what you don't know is that when you were 4 and your mother didn't feed you from the table, or you took it like she didn't care about you, that you were a bad person, that you weren't good enough. That time when your mother didn't feed you right away or yelled at you, what you didn't know was that she found out that Daddy was cheating with somebody, and she was devastated, and she couldn't eat for 3 days. And there's all those things that we don't know as kids that happened that are the reality, but we still assign the meanings to the past. And I think part of that is that because of the way we were brought up, I know for me is that I didn't have really good boundaries. So what happens is I don't filter those boundaries. It's kind of like those feelings. So the boundaries are kind of like a filter. So when somebody's like imagine you had a stadium. Imagine you were going to a stadium. You were going to perform. The stadium is your world, and in order for a concert like a big concert with 30,000 people. In order for that concert to take place, the concert organizers have to organize it so that they check people at security and make sure that they're not bringing anything in that's going to harm anybody else in the audience. Safety is a big concern. They want to allow people to come in on an organized, consistent basis instead of everybody flooding all at once. In the stadium example, I was thinking about that earlier today, is that, me, I just had my stadium, the doors were wide open. Hey, I'm here and anybody can come in, no security check. I'm on stage, because I'm not a good performer for singing, but it's not a singing thing, but the point I'm trying to get at is that they can bring in anything, they can throw anything at me, and I'll take it because I let them in my stadium. What I didn't do is I didn't filter them out. I didn't check them at the gates. I didn't have the security check them at the gates so that when they came on, 3 different, this concert has 20 doors, but we're only going to let people in these 3 doors here and these 3 doors on the other side, and we're going to have 2 security guards checking people that have backpacks or purses or whatever. We're going to have them go through that. We're going to filter those people out, and we're going to let them in an organized manner, and we're going to make sure they're the right type of people, that they have tickets for the concert, because we're not just going to allow anybody to come in that isn't going to be there that are interested in us. And so that's kind of what I was thinking, is that we need to filter out the people. We need to just not allow their feelings or whatever to just permeate us, to feel compassion for somebody. Compassion for somebody we don't know until we really know them. Does that kind of make sense? Before we move forward with a relationship, before we move forward with a friendship. And so by not allowing everybody in, we're only allowing certain people in. And so how do we do that? I mean, how do you get better boundaries? Well, the way I liken the boundaries is, how I talked about there's 4 security guards, there's 6 doors. Well, those 4 security guards, I'm going to say, is the way you get security guards is you read a book. 1 book equals 1 security guard. All right, it could be a different ratio, but you see my point is that you have, for every book you read, you get another security guard that is smart and knows how to filter people into your concert. So I hope that kind of makes sense, is that, in other words, I'm taking things a lot more personally, and I can see it now. And I think for a lot of us, we're empathetic. If we're empathetic, we're taking things a lot more personally because we want the approval of other people. Now, the narcissist wants the approval of other people too, because that's all the narcissist has. But in our case, we want the approval of other people because we were told, and we were told that that's kind of how things were. But we can change, and we don't have to necessarily have those unguarded doors to the stadium. We can filter those people in with healthy boundaries. So I just wanted to throw that out there for discussion. But I tell you that the breakthrough I had today was, now when I think about that event, the event on the bus with the girl that rejected me, now when I think about that, I see myself, I actually see myself going, well, I don't know what's wrong with you, but okay, I'm out of here. And me talking and sitting next to other people and friends, and everybody's having a good time. I rewrote that in my head because really, being from 8th grade, I mean, there were some physical things that took place of, people sitting here on the bus or whatever. But in my little head, in my 8th grade head, I assumed I knew all the facts, and I didn't. I didn't know anything. All I know was that this girl was infatuated with me for about 2 weeks, and then for whatever reason, she changed her phone number. She said she was going to, when you're in 8th grade, you're not paying the phone bill. So, so there were some things that hurt me, but what I'm saying is, if I can rewrite it, which I did, it's this cloud. It's like this cloud. It's like this cloud that's always around me. And so now it's like almost this, it's kind of disappeared, but when I think of this cloud, it's not gray anymore. It's kind of bright. So, yeah. That's after reading all kinds of books, NLP, taking an image in the head, readjusting it. But really, the PsychoCybernetics book by Maxwell Maltz talks about using your imagination to change how you feel. Like, that's what athletes do before they go out on the field. They visualize, they perform the performance in their head. Well, you don't have to necessarily perform something realistic. You can go back in time and rewrite history in your head. And even that history isn't true, right? I know that didn't happen, but I can place meaning. I can place new meanings. The true reality is, I don't know what all those other people were thinking. I don't even know what this girl was thinking. I know what she said, and even that might be fuzzy, right? Because somebody says something to us, reject, and then all of a sudden all these other things come into our head. She probably meant this and that and whatever, and I'm no good. But that's the way it's stuck in my head. It doesn't have to be stuck there. In fact, I unstuck it. It was the coolest thing. It was like, it hit me, and I think it hit me because I gave myself permission to go and talk with the kid. I gave myself permission as an adult, knowing things about, knowing that I don't know, knowing that I did make it up, knowing that it wasn't, what I thought was real, and I'm still carrying it around today. It's not. It's only the meaning I assigned to it. It's only what I perceived it to be. And my perception's changed now, and I can go back and change it. Go back and change it, whatever. So if you're having those persistent things, and you may see, that's the thing. It was almost like a low rumbling for like the last couple of years. Like I didn't even know specifically what it was. Every once in a while, that memory would come into my head with this girl and the neighborhood kid that kind of distanced himself from me. I mean, he went to a different school, I mean, there's a lot of things there. And what I found out later too is that my mom and this mom, they didn't really get along so much. So this mom may have said, yeah, you may want to stay away from him, whatever. And my mom may have said the same thing to me. Moms are really good manipulators, Moms know everything at that age. They have eyes on the back of their head even. So this low rumbling, if you have this low rumbling, like you get these feelings, they're not even clear. But I so believe that if you read books and learn about, being able to look at things, because these scary things that we look at, these things that hurt us, I don't think they're necessarily going to be. I don't necessarily think they're going to be as scary for you, because you're going to realize, like I did, that it's us holding us back. So when they talk about that, change your thoughts and everything. Well, I mean, the thoughts just aren't right there. They have to you have to allow them to come out, and that's what I did. So, anyways, guys, want to share that with you. Love you.